cognitive behavior therapy. Now, when this was actually started, it was started by Dr. Aaron Beck. And at that point of time, it was called cognitive therapy. So Dr. Beck felt that there was a huge gap between the behaviorists saying that we should only observe, the observable behavior, and the psychodynamic or psychoanalytic saying that there is a mind and there are unconscious conflicts, etc. So Dr. Beck developed the cognitive therapy. In his research or in his therapy sessions, he found that people with depression were somewhat reporting the same kind of negative cognitions. And these negative cognitions, they were leading to, let's say, them feeling sad, and in response, leading to the maladaptive behavior. Now, cognitive behavior therapy is known to be highly structured, short-term, and it is focused on the present. Let's look at some of the basic principles of CBT. The first thing is CBT requires a sound therapeutic alliance. Now, therapeutic alliance is also called rapport, or the working relationship between the client and the therapist. And for the sound therapeutic alliance to develop, the therapist needs to have warmth, should be genuine, use a little humor and creativity to initiate the therapeutic dialogue. And most importantly, should be able to create a non-judgmental environment for the client. Once a therapeutic alliance is formed between the client and the therapist, it is almost 50% of the therapeutic journey. This is the major foundation based on which your therapy will be successful or will be able to help the client. The second is it emphasizes on collaboration and active participation of the client. So the therapist and the client, they work together to set the goals or the agenda of the session, to set the homework of the session, to deciding how many times they should meet or how many sessions they should take in a week. So it requires an active participation from the client, an active engagement from the client. Third, it is goal-oriented and problem-focused. So as we know that the therapy is highly structured, so it focuses on discrete problems, and second, it focuses on generating solutions. So what does this mean? The thing is that when you're coming to the therapist, if you say something like very abstract, such as, I feel my self-esteem is down. See, that is a very vague thing for the therapist. Then they will start asking you exactly what you mean by it. So discrete problem over here means the therapist and the client, they decide that, for example, I'm unable to get out of bed. That is a discrete problem. That's a more concrete problem. And for that problem, they are going to start generating solutions. That what are the issues that we face while getting out of bed? If we can eliminate those things, for example, going to sleep early, putting an alarm clock, or associating one activity that will help you, let's say, get out of bed. Something to look forward to. Next, cognitive behavior therapy is educative. So over here, we speak about the course or the course of the disorder, what are the consequences of the disorder. We basically provide them what is called psychoeducation. In the very first session, you will have to talk to the client about what is the course and prognosis of the disorder, what is CBT about, what is the process of CBT, and what is the cognitive model. We will discuss about the cognitive model in a few slides. One of the aims of cognitive behavior therapy is to be time limited. So for depression or anxiety, like I said, it's highly structured. So it takes somewhere around 6 to 12 sessions for the client to able to manage and cope up on their own. For issues that are for a longer period of time or they're chronic in nature, it may take more than 6 to 12 sessions. Sessions are structured, so the session itself has a beginning, a middle, and the end. So in the beginning of the session or the start of the session, we start the session by asking them for a mood check. That is, how are you doing? Plus, we review the week. How has your week been? And we set the agenda or set the goal for the session. So today in this session, we are going to discuss about so on and so forth, right? Or what is it that you would want to work on? The middle of the session will comprise of reviewing the homework, plus we speak about the techniques that will help them manage or cope with their issues, right? We talk about what could have led to this, how, if there were any obstacles that led to them not being able to do the homework, the challenges they faced in the week, and generating solution to these challenges or these issues that they may have faced. Or what we are, let's say, if they have anxiety, then so suppose we discuss about anxiety in the past session. So when we start, we will talk about, let's say, if we were able to overcome the anxiety. In the middle, we will review the homework. That is, suppose they did some observation of the triggers, what led to their anxiety, and the techniques that they used to overcome that anxiety. So that will comprise the middle of the session. In the end of the session, we will end with setting the homework for the next session, and we will seek feedback. So usually we end the session by saying, how are you feeling about it? What is the takeaway that you are taking from this session? That is, what have you learned from today's session? How are you feeling towards the end? And summarizing the session for the client. Finally, the emphasis is on the here and now. When we say the here and now, we mean that it is focused on the current problems. We do ask them about the past, about the childhood, but that is mostly to get a better understanding of how those things will be impacting them in the present. It is just from the understanding point of view. When we talk about generating issues, or the issues at hand that we deal with, they are mostly related with the here and now. For example, I'm not able to study now, or I'm unable to go to sleep, or there are situations in which I feel anxious. So now we'll discuss the components of cognition. There are three components of cognition: automatic thoughts, core belief, and cognitive beliefs or distortions. So automatic thoughts, like the name suggests, they are automatic. So we do not actually emphasize, or we do not actually pay attention, but these thoughts just pop up on their own. So they are very rapid. They are involuntary to the mind. So like I said, it's not like we think about it. It's the first thought that pops in your mind. And it is quite situation specific. So according to the situation, a thought will pop up. It is also called the most superficial level of cognition. So automatic thoughts are the most superficial level of cognition that we have. Hence, they are more easy to catch hold of or to observe when we are starting with CBT. Like I said, these are situation specific. So there are two kinds of triggers for this: internal or external. So internal trigger could be my heart. For example, my heart is pounding very fast. It means I'm going to have a heart attack. External trigger could be that I'm late to the class. Now my professor will scold me. My professor will think that I'm a very bad person. So automatic thoughts, they occur automatically, and it happens with almost all of us, right? A person who could be seeing this or watching this video might think, you know, this is way too hard for me. I'm not able to, let's say, understand anything. So, an automatic thought of, I'm not able to understand anything or this is way too hard for me may pop up in the mind. Now, as a therapist, how do you understand that the person is maybe having an automatic thought? So, first, whenever a person is describing a situation to you, the client is describing a situation to you, we want to elicit what automatic thoughts they were having. And B, when you notice a change in the affect. So suppose as a therapist, I am talking about something and I notice that my client's facial expression changed. It means they might have had an automatic thought. How do we elicit automatic thoughts? We elicit automatic thoughts by asking a very simple question is, what is going through your mind? What is going through your mind? Sometimes a client will be able to tell you that this is the thought that came to me. Other times, the clients do not have that awareness yet to tell you what they were thinking about. So, in such a situation, we try to elicit the automatic thoughts by A, asking them if they had any physiological reaction. So, are you feeling anything in any part of your body? Second, we ask them to describe the situation in as much detail as possible. So we ask them to visualize the scenario and we ask them to tell us each and every detail that of the situation that they were in. And third, we ask them to sort of role play. That suppose if they come and they tell you, "Hey, I had a fight with my mother." So the therapist then becomes the mother or the client, and the client remains the same, and they have a dialogue. So sometimes the client will be able to say, "Oh, my mother's, said this, and this is what I then thought." The second component of cognition is core belief. So core belief, which I will write over here. So core belief is a much more rigid plus global plus over generalized cognition. See, we form core belief through our experiences with the environment, with significant others, and the interaction of ourselves with the outside environment. So, certain personality traits could also be a part of could also lead to the formation of certain core belief. And core belief is quite difficult to catch on to. We understand core belief once we start observing the automatic thoughts. Core belief is developed about the self, others, or the world, and the future. Core belief about the self could be, for example, in depression, the core belief can be, I am worthless. For others and the world could be, nobody likes me. For the future, it can be nothing good will ever happen to me, or my future is bleak. Right? So this is how we have the core beliefs, and these core beliefs that are maintained, they get activated when a situation is extremely negative, or we perceive the situation as being extremely negative or not going in our way. Last, we come to the cognitive belief or distortion. So cognitive belief or distortion, they distort the perception of the situation that we are in. And this distortion is usually aligned with the core belief and the automatic thoughts. If it's a negative core belief, then the distortion that we'll have, the cognitive distortion we'll have is going to maintain the negative core belief.